Good afternoon, everyone. I am architect Shivani Chandra from Acing, and today you are attending a webinar jointly with me and Mr. Shivaram Balasubramaniam from Nemetschek Group. And today you will be learning about BIM and about Archicad as well. So it's like an introduction to BIM and basics of Archicad and where these tools can be used, how it can be beneficial for you. So let's begin. Let's move on to the next slide. I hope everybody is able to see the screen and you can type in the chat if you're unable to. Okay, so I think we are good to go. So let's discuss the designer's timeline, the role of the designer, how it has changed from, who was a designer? Has it changed from using stones in the den to actually having digital twins for a whole city? That is how we have transformed. So let's go towards the next slide and discuss the timeline that has been there. This is one of the first earliest recorded architectural plan. This is plan of St. Gall. And you can see everything is from starting to beginning is on paper. From beginning to ending, it's all on paper and it's all very thoughtfully done indeed. And it's a very tedious thing and it's completely hand drafted. And this is something that we also do today, I think in first year. But this is something that was recorded in 800 CE. So this is how we record in the earliest times that, how drafting was done and how the role of a designer was also to do the complete drafting. Let's move on to the next slide. Then during the Renaissance, we can see how we move towards more organized and, using those tools, using orthographic tools, perspective designs, and 3Ds, 2Ds, everything with quite precision. So the drafting instruments were a tool which was very important for this era, which we still use in the early years of our studies. And this is how we have begun in the 18th and 19th century. This is what the scenario was. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, this is the scenario of having a firm with a lot of sheets wherein a lot of drafting tables were there in the early 1900s when the tasks were very tedious and people had to draft everything by hand, understand every detail, and be very careful about what each line means. And this was actually the time of technical drawings and draftsmen as a like the designer's role, or maybe you can say that drafting as a technique was a very important asset at this point of time. And you can see the manpower difference that is there in current scenario and in this period. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, this is the very first CAD experiments, and you can compare it to today's graphic tablets. And this is where, that first interaction from real to artificial mode was there. This is basically CAD software, computer aided drafting softwares, which were mainstream, which got to be mainstream in the 1980s and 1990s. And the workflows shifted from your hand to some physical tools to actually having it on the screens. Let's move on to the next slide. So this is a very interesting image and where we can understand BIM and its concept and how this has, how from a pre-BIM era to a post-BIM era, we are achieving. We are at certain point of it and we'll discuss it. So you can see level 0, level 1 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1990s was all paper. It was all drawings, lines, arc, text. So it was all about having drawings. matlab, It was all about having lines, arcs. So it was geometry. Okay. So the information or the intelligence that was there was all human. Computer aided the drafting point of it, and the intelligence was all human. So if you are an architect, so you know those two lines probably mean a wall, or you have marked it intentionally that it is a wall, or it is a rectangle is a column. But for an MEP engineer, those same two lines can be drafted and can be marked as like a pipe. So the difference of CAD and BIM is primarily wherein the intelligence, the role of intelligence is there in human, and how it shifts to also the artificial mode understanding that. Secondly, we come on to the application of BIM techniques, which is managed CAD, which is like 2D and 3D. So you can have your basic 2D and 3D softwares, which have lines, which have models, maybe SketchUp and maybe AutoCAD, but it does not have that collaboration level. It does not have that intelligence level. It does not have all the parameters for any kind of model. Okay, so maybe a rectangle or any volume in 3D means something, but because it's all CAD, you know what it means. But uh, what that model information, the model's information primarily is more towards when we come to level 2, which is BIM plus simulation. And BIM plus simulation also refers to having softwares uh, which is which can, energy analysis and these kind of things, when you can do, when you can have 4D, 5D, you have 3D is like 3D is like geometry. Okay. But 4D is when you also add that time component. 5D is when you add that cost component. 6D is that sustainability or energy component. So that is where the BIM plus simulation thing is coming in, which is shown to be in 2010s. We come on to level 3, which is BIM plus sensors plus IoT, which is integrated BIM. So here we move from just building information modeling or just a software thing to more towards sensing it to the relating it to the sensors. When we talk about sensors, or when we talk about um IoT, Internet of Things. So it's more of like having the real data, or making the building stock ideally, having the real data into the in the real time into the artificial or your BIMs, like your BIM software. Then we have BIM plus AI. So this is BIM plus AI. When we talk about BIM plus AI, is basically having artificial intelligence also roped in. And you must have seen a lot of softwares having automated flash detections nowadays, and a lot of testing modes wherein artificial intelligence is automating a lot of tasks that were earlier uh, to be done manually. So that is the next level, which is level 4. And here what happens is the decision making also becomes really faster. Then we come on to the ideal digital twins concept. And when we talk about digital twin concept, we are talking about not just building level, also about city level, and also about what if scenario, and simulating that what if this was the scenario, this was the level of, let's say, any kind of asset or any kind of energy, or any kind of temperature, and what will happen in that kind of scenario. So it's ideally digital twin is a replica of the real scenario, and then how you can simulate it and make predictions and do a lot of things, and real time monitoring is there. So from just designing to operation and maintenance, we have moved forward. Let's come on to the next slide. This is ideally an image which shows that how governments in the 2010s have mandated the larger projects to have BIM, to have cross-discipline workflows. So when we talk about BIM, it's not only about a software, it's about a complete workflow. It's about all the stakeholders having those information. Can we move to the next slide? And this is one of the artificial intelligence visualization render. I think all of us understand that how we used to take days and hours to render, and from that, visualization has primarily been very easily. AI has entered this stage wherein you can present to your clients different options with different colors or different styles, and you can coordinate your models which are in raw format and give some references and get some good visuals as to what you're planning in very quick time. Can we move on to the next slide? Okay, so let's compare BIM and CAD. So when we talk about the design approach, CAD is basically 2D drafting of lines and shapes to which you are giving meaning. And BIM is intelligent 3D model with data rich elements. So every asset is having some kind of information. Then about drawing updates, you have to manually update drawings in any CAD based software. So what happens in that scenario is, let's say you're maneuvering in 5 different softwares for design to visualization to presentation to quantity takeoffs. Quantity takeoffs basically bill of quantities, or bill the complete quantities for your materials and everything. So that thing is manually changed in all those 5 different softwares. But when we come on to BIM, or when we are maybe talking about taking an example of the software Archicad, we are automatically updating it across all the views and all those quantity takeoff and all those uh, 3D view, 2D plans, schedules, everywhere that's things get changed at once. So what this does is this not only saves your time but also reduces the chances of errors. Then we come on to coordination. Since the software, the once you're doing on CAD, you are making something, then exporting it, and then doing maybe visualization, or maybe you have different plans for different things. Like for MEP, you are having different plans. So over there, this coordination thing or frequent clashes are definitely possible, especially when you are trying to overlap things in a 2D format, wherein you are not getting an idea of what's happening in the 3D. But with BIM, this gets changed. There is clash detection, and uh, centralized model is able to see all things at once. Then we come on to visualization. So in uh, visualization is a little different in CAD base, but in 3D, AR, VR, walkthroughs, realistic renders, and once you have an integrated model, what happens is you are able to transpose yourself from sections to 3Ds to walking a client through your walkthrough, maybe using some cloud-based softwares. For Archicad, there's BIMX. So that makes it very interactive. Then we come on to data and information. On CAD, we are only geometrically representing everything. But on BIM, every element is carrying some kind of physical information and some kind of performance data. So maybe you have put some columns. So those columns also carry some meaning. Maybe it could be the size, it could be the material, it could be uh, if it's like if the structural person is also there. So if that structural model is also there, so that information is also being carried in the same model. So that is where the difference comes in. Quantities and BOQ is where you are manually calculating all the areas. Let's say for an interior modeling, You are calculating all the tiles on your own, you're calculating all the doors on your own, all the windows. But with BIM, this changes. Let's come on to the next slide. And with BIM, you are actually automatically extracting those quantities. And when you are automatically extracting these things, this happens. This happens in real time. Like, so, if you are even making any kind of change, that's getting changed over there as well. Then we come on to workflow, and definitely the CAD workflow is traditional and it's more drafting focused, and you're spending a lot of time transposing from one software to another. But over here, it's more collaborative. And and the rework is high in CAD and low in BIM, and that is very evident why it is. And then life cycle use. So CAD is there for a building only until the design and drawing stage, and maybe you just give it to the contractors and then they are going to execute it. But life cycle use of an BIM model is design to building to operating as well these days. So when once you have designed, all the stakeholders in BIM, all the stakeholders can be there on one platform and under a common data environment, and can access the files and can have the real-time information of what is happening at the site, uh, like what the latest drawings are, what is happening in the structure, what is happening in MEP. And furthermore, operation and there are softwares that are also, having this operation and maintenance thing carried forward afterwards. Then we come on to collaboration. So collaboration is basically, these are independent files in CAD, but in BIM, you have a complete workflow and you have a common data environment. Collaboration can also be through uh, cloud based, or it could be open BIM. So when we talk about open BIM, it is usually in a file format in which all kinds of software, let's say maybe Revit or Archicad, any software can open in a common format. So IFC is one of the examples, industrial foundation classes, in which you can commonly open the file. So you don't have to worry about, maybe you have some kind of information in a file, like let's say in 3ds you have something, then you want to convert into SketchUp and then make it render. So that's a very tedious process, and you lose a lot of information. For example, in Archicad, when you are exporting an IFC, there's minimum data loss. So that is where this open BIM makes sense. And it is also important because a lot of stakeholders might be using some different tool. So tools should not definitely hinder the designers. Then we come on to cost efficiency. So initially the cost for CAD softwares is lower, but then you have multiple softwares, and uh, the rework could definitely lead to increased project and manpower costs. But with BIM, you have higher initial costs, but then there's major savings in construction and execution. And then if we talk about suitability, so yeah, for very small or basic projects, you can definitely use CAD. But for medium to large scale projects, you need to use BIM. And for a villa, you can say you might be able to take off a project through CAD. But for any kind of larger scale projects or any kind of projects which are of the uh, general general format, wherein you need to understand that how the beams, columns, how everything is happening in with respect to each other. So there you need to have a BIM tool or a BIM workflow uh, in your designing, you know, in your designing aspect. Let's move on to the next slide. So in a nutshell, BIM is very important because it saves time, reduces errors, and it increases profit in a sense because you spend less time correcting mistakes and more time on designing. And we need to understand that BIM is not a software, it's a complete workflow. Okay. Let's understand this McLeamy effort curve, which very beautifully tells about, how you are having that effort thing versus your ability to change the design or the cost of design changes. So the blue graph that you are seeing, let's first talk about the x-axis, wherein you have pre-design, schematic design, design development, construction documentation, and then construction. So pre-design is basically the conceptual, and even before the conceptual things. Schematic is the first level of conceptual and, uh, those one-line diagrams, you can say. Then we come on to design development, wherein all the decisions are happening, and all the major decisions are happening where it is easier to have a lot of opinions, a lot of opinions from the stakeholders, and it is easier because easier to have changes and modifications because we have not uh, processed towards quantity takeoffs or towards the construction phase, or a phase wherein all the decisions are being made is basically the design development stage. So you can see that BIM is spending more time or more effort towards the pre-design and decision-making stage. And the construction documentation and construction is relatively lower. But when you talk about 2D, we are spending lesser time towards design and we are spending more time towards construction's documentation, meaning that the GFCs maybe. So and changes that have to be done. So if you see the red line, which is starting from tree design and it is rising towards construction, right? But the blue line, it is the effort, you can say that it's getting lower. So the BIM is having a much better output in terms of how you were having the design changes versus how the cost will be affected. So in the case of 2D, because we are spending lesser time on design decision and more towards documenting the construction part, and there the changes are coming, the cost is rising. Can we move on to the next slide? So the reality check, what's your workflow? I know a lot of people are joining from outside as well. But I would like to know, like, what's what your workflow is like in your country. What's your workflow? You can write it in the chat, like how do you work? Maybe you are in school, or sorry, maybe you are in college or in practice. So you can write in the chat as in how your workflow currently is. Okay, so Arun Raj has written 2D for conceptual to construction detailing, basic modeling for visualization. Yeah, so it's definitely about having a software for 2D. You are conceptualizing in 2D, then you are doing construction detailing also in 2D, and you are moving towards another software for basic modeling for visualization. So we are definitely spending time on to not being this workflow won't be allow us to basically uh, do things simultaneously, I could say. So can we move on to the next slide? Uh, so this is where it comes in, that if everything is already digital, why are we still jumping between softwares? When we were hand drafting, then also we were making all the designs and all the details separately. So are we moving towards a more smarter way of doing it? So 5 different tools for one project can lead to confusion, cost, and delay. Repetition, the same wall is updated in 5 places, and one little client change, and you have to then manage it everywhere. And just in case you forgot to update your Excel or Google Sheets where the quantity takeoffs were there, everything gets spoiled, because then ultimately it would lead to construction delay. Maybe we are procuring more material or something like that. So there's where it gets very important that we adopt the smarter tools, smarter softwares. And basically, we are here to design better. We are here to develop better. So we don't want to waste our time managing those drawings or coordinating them. Rather, more towards designing and decision making and problem solving. Let's move on to the next slide. So choosing the right digital tools, we won't make it very rigid. We will just have those 5 common words, or 5 key factors, I can say. PSCTI: purpose, scale, cost, time, and interoperability. So, what is the purpose of your project? Like, what kind of project is it? Is it a residential building? Is it a major residential building? Or let's say not even the type. Is the purpose uh, a construction drawing, a proper design to construction, you have to execute it? Or is the purpose like some kind of a marketing drawing wherein the purpose is to have some very customized visualization? So you need to identify that what the purpose of your designing thing is. Then we come on to scale. When we talk about scale, it's about, is this a small project which will require sorry, which will require which doesn't really require going to a BIM tool, and you can just draft, and it's just a simple furniture layout of a small room? Or is it or does the scale vary? Does the scale have a highway maybe, or maybe a very tall building? So over there, you need to see that how, like, is my tool capable enough, and in what stages my what tool will be used. So if you understand BIM, you would understand that there is a proper building execution, BIM execution plan, BEP, that is there, wherein you have to decide the workflow, where you have to decide what kind of LOD or level of detail you are getting into. So the scale. So for any project, to decide the right digital tools, you need to understand the purpose. You need to understand the scale. You also need to understand the what cost are we looking into? What kind of budget are we looking into? You also need to look into the deliverable time. And then, most importantly, you also need to look into interoperability. And when we talk about interoperability, it's about, is are all the stakeholders able to take up the same software? Or do we need to have more interoperable options? Like, do we need to have uh, files which are interoperable, which can be be in one single format, which can open in different softwares, and it won't hinder any kind of working, and any data loss is not happening, right? So that is where interoperability also is very important. So is your role only architectural, and then you move out of then there's nothing further about it? Or is it like a big project, the scale is there, and then you need to have interoperability? So that is where it becomes important. So these 5 things are there which will help you choose the right digital tools for the kind of project you are going for. Let's move on to the next slide. So let's meet Archicad. Archicad is one of the softwares which is built for architects, by architects, and with the concept of designing first and engineering later. So the moment you enter, you don't need to put all the columns, and that's not what we do while we are designing as well. So this is one of the uh, best things about it, being a more design-based and architectural-based BIM software. So you come towards a concept, then you come towards the building information modeling of it, then documentation, visualization, and all the information has been done like in one for documentation. We'll discuss the features. We have one click annotations also. Then towards the presentation, and all in one having happening in real time. Plus the 3D is also getting updated. It's lightweight and the interface is very intuitive. So when I talk about intuitive, the interface is not very intimidating. It's very friendly. So it's something like you can say its interface is like SketchUp, but because it's a BIM software, so it's quite smarter, right? Lightweight because you're not loading families into it, right? There are a lot of things that are linked, so that is where the difference comes in. And it's more because it's designed by architect and the software is built by an architect. So it's more towards creativity and not just compliance. It's a little above, beyond just columns and beams. And additionally, it works smoothly on your Mac too. Can we move on the next slide? So design, develop, deliver. These are the three key points that the software is offering you. There's seamless evolution from concept to construction drawings. And you are covering 2D and 3D. You're not juggling softwares in this. Then repeated drawings are not happening over here because you're updating once and it's getting reflected everywhere. So once you get your publisher set out, everything is there. Built-in visualization, which is like real-time 3D, no plugins are needed. And in fact, you have sign render and Maxon inbuilt in Archicad, wherein you can have good level of renders, where you can have good visualization in the same model, in the same file, I would say. Then collaboration ready, so you have BIM Cloud and IFC support. And client walkthroughs, we discussed earlier, BIMX for interactive presentations. And can we move on to the next slide? So this is a very, this is with respect to Archicad only. And this is like, it's a one integrated tool. You have one BIM model. And the way you cut sections and plans, it's viewpoint or project maps, you can say. And then you have its different views that we set on the layout. And instead of drawing each and everything, you are getting it automatically. And then there's this layout, and then you have the publisher sets, which is basically a combination of all your sheets. And everything will get updated if you're making any changes in that one BIM model where we started. So this is how it actually saves a lot of time, and you are making decisions at the first stage, and rest all is an output. Can we move on to the next slide? So this is simultaneously showing that there's a construction documentation or a 2D visible, and then this 3D, then there's visualization, and then there is all the quantity takeoffs and schedules right from one software, one Archicad, and one file. And you can see the level of drawings and the level of renders and the level of detailing that is there. And if I have to change one door in this, I can change it and everything will be visible on all the four things. Can we move on to the next slide? Okay, so let's do a versus thing, like why this? So the best part about Archicad is that you are not being restricted. There's a lot of flexibility that this tool is offering. So any tool you're drawing walls and everything, that is similar, that is same, you are using tools. But when we come to category, you're not being rigid in those categories that this has to fall in certain default category or something. That classification and layer thing can be separated. So you can have like omni class or uni class, and you can have different layers. You can make those layers, which which I don't think any BIM tool is offering as of now, to have separated things in layers, which becomes very important in architecturally, basically. Then the differences of families and objects. So in Archicad, you have GDL objects which are linked, and you have more. You can have more smoother workflow. You, because these are linked. These are not directly loaded. So your software becomes light. Sorry, your file becomes lightweight. And in case of families, you need to load them, right? So over there, the heaviness of the file increases, the size of the file increases. So that is one of the key differences. Then there are type in other tools wherein you have certain types of doors, and then you have 1200, 900 and different. But in case of a favorite, an Archicad has favorites, you can save them as presets, and you can use it consistently in other files as well. So that can help you develop uh, good design styles as with respect to what you use in your project. And instance is same in both the softwares. So can we move to the next slide? And then we come to Open BIM, which is equivalent to like ease of collaboration, you can say. And can we move to the further slide so that it becomes easier to explain? So there are no proprietary formats. Okay. Common data environment and IFC workflows, any information system. So IFC workflow, even if the MEP designer is having it in certain different other file, it's sorry, software, it's not like you will have to export it to some other software. It's OpenBIM. You can save it as an IFC, you can save it as Kobe, and you can uh, have different kind of information at one go. And it is interoperable, so you can open it anywhere. So then there's workflow transparency and openness and commitment to OpenBIM approach and standards. So this is basically prioritizing the designer over the software thing. Next slide. So you can see how Archicad is interoperable in various softwares. You can see SketchUp, Rhino, Revit, and D5, Enscape, Twinmotion. And this makes it a very strong and powerful tool to be used. Next slide. So here we see that we are moving from tree design to schematic design, design development, construction documentation, construction to facility management under one integrated software. Next slide. This is one of the first interfaces of Archicad, and you can see that how software has adapted it to the need of the hour, and how it has changed. So you can say that this has not just adapted, it has led the industry. Next slide. And today, Archicad has become more relevant than ever. Next slide. Okay, so now we will have a quick Archicad demo session. And I would like Mr. Shiva Subramaniam to take over from here and have the demo session. Shivaram Balasubramaniam is from Nemetschek Group. And he'll be taking over from here for the demo session. Shiva, sir, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm just trying to project my screen. Just a second.
Definitely.
I'm audible and clear, right?
Yes, you are very much audible.
All right, just give me a second. My screen is visible, right?
Your screen is visible and you're audible as well.
All right. Hi guys, this is Architect Shiva. I have been an Archicad user for over a decade now. I started using Archicad while I was in architecture school, let's say from first year. And then ever since I have been consistently using Archicad, and now I have grown up to a part where I am a Graphisoft certified BIM manager, and I am working as a product specialist for Graphisoft products in the architecture segment for Nemetschek India. And to give a quick introduction of Archicad, just to add to what Shivani said, Archicad is another BIM authoring tool. So what we'll have to understand here is that we have many tools today for us architects and designers to design. The main difference that we need to understand is some of the tools that we use are visualization tools where it helps us create something visually in 3D. And the difference between that and BIM tool is that with the BIM tool, it not only helps us visualize things, but also add parameters and information along while modeling itself. So that is where we call Archicad as a BIM authoring tool. So it not just models, it also authors, and you have the ability to edit and make changes with those parameters. And again, Archicad is designed by architects for architects. So we have multiple other BIM tools here, which again is very open for every user, but that is where Archicad comes in as an introduction for architects and designers to get into BIM. So you can start from your design stage, visualization stage. You can also collaborate and then get your documentations all under the same platform. So we also have something called as the single model concept. So basically what the traditional workflow that we do is we start drafting something, which is our 2D documentation, and then we use a software for 3D visualization, and then we use another software to render these 3D visualizations, and then we use some softwares like Excel, and then we use other softwares to do structure analysis. But in Archicad, we can do all of these things within the same platform, within the same model. For example, once we create a BIM model, from that model we can create our 2D documentations. We can also do 3D visualizations. We can calculate load and then analyze our structure. We can also do MEP modeling within Archicad. We can also do energy analysis, interior designing, and we can also do takeouts or schedules out of the model. So to quickly explain how it works, so on the bottom, you can see here, um, there is a wall and a hatch, and there is a 3D model of a wall here. So basically, the main difference between other softwares and Archicad is that if I simply create a wall, it also asks me to decide. It also asks me to decide how the wall will look in 3D as well as what material it will represent in 3D. So this way, I decide my wall will look like this with a hatch in 2D, and for 3D, it will have a brick with common wall. So this is how simple it is when I create any building material or any building elements. So this applies with all the elements of design in Archicad. Let's say windows, doors, any objects that we use. It always has representation of both 2D and 3D. Now what happens? We create a 3D model or a building information model based on these information. And if we cut that 3D model or the BIM model like for example, horizontally and vertically. So that will basically gives us the section and elevation and the plans of the model. So that way we are creating different viewpoints of where we are cutting, and then we are creating different views of the same viewpoint. For example, I can have a viewpoint of furniture layout just for the floor plan, and there would be one electrical layout for the same floor plan. So it is all the same model. We just cut and then we just alter the view, and then we can put these view onto the layout book, and from the layout book we will put it into the publisher. So what happens, for example, if there is a design change, and if I go to the 3D model or if I directly change it anywhere in the drawing, it automatically updates on the 3D, on the 2D, as well as the layout books and the publishers that we have created. Since because we also have decided for each and every element, this is how it will look in 3D and this is how it will look in 2D, it automatically gets updated on both the drawings as well as the 3D model. And on a single click of update, all the changes also gets updated to our layout book and the publisher. So this is where we save time, not jumping between different views or different softwares to make those changes. So to give a simple interface tour, you can see the software is very simple. It is mostly graphical. You will not be seeing a lot of complicated things to scare you off. On the left, you have the simple toolbox where everything is graphical. Even if someone is not an architect or not from the AEC industry, they could quickly learn the software. And on the top, you have the toolbar, which basically holds all the editing tools like undo, redo, copy, paste, break, and all these things. And below that, you see is the info box. So info box basically gives you the tools that is available for the selected element. For example, you can see wall is selected from here, and the info box is giving you all the information that is available for the wall tool, like the geometry method or the structure of the wall and stuff like that. And below that, you can see the tab bar. So tab bar is basically like our browser tabs. We can quickly jump between different views using the tab bar. For example, if I'm working in the floor plan, and then there's the second toolbar, tab bar that shows 3D. If I want to jump into 3D, I'll just click on that. Just like how we would switch from one tab to other in a browser, we would be switching from different views to work inside Archicad. And on the bottom, you have the status bar on one corner. So status bar will basically give you or guide you what to do next. For example, now the wall has been selected and then it tells you enter the first node of polywall. So after you click on the first node, then it will tell you uh, select the direction where you want the wall to grow or make the second node of wall. So status bar will basically guide you what to do next. And on the bottom, we have the quick options bar, or we also call it as attributes bar. Attributes bar basically holds all the settings of your scale, your layers, and your viewing options, graphical overrides, which we will quickly jump into the real 3D model and I can explain it to you better. And on the right side, we have the pop-up navigator that basically holds us our different views that we have created and our layouts and stuff. So the main aspect of Archicad is that it helps us manage both 2D and 3D within the same environment itself. For example, if I change a door in the 3D, it also automatically updates in 2D. And for example, if there is any door schedule that I have made it, it also automatically gets updated in the schedule as well. So that is how we can save time, and that is how Archicad is creating an environment that is helpful for the real life construction features. And we also have complex modeling tools like the stair tool, curtain wall tool, morph, and all these tools will help us create anything that is flexible and to bring our ideas into real life models. We also have a plugin that helps Archicad to connect with Rhino to create algorithmic designs. But Today everything is parametric, and we need to have control to make or control to access those parameters, right? For example, if we are creating something parameter, we cannot just create it for the visualization purpose. We need to measure the things in a proper way. So for that purpose, we also have a connection to uh, convert your Rhino models into Archicad elements through the plugin. And we can also work in a bidirectional workflow to create these parametric building models inside Archicad. And just like Shivani said, we don't have to move or jump away from, again, to any rendering softwares from Archicad. We also have built-in rendering engines from Maxon. So Maxon is another brand of Nemetschek, just like how we have 3ds Max or any other modeling software. We have Cinema 4D, and this rendering engine is developed from that Maxon team and shared it with Archicad. So we have two rendering engines, CineRender and then the Redshift. So with these rendering engines, you can create renderings directly inside Archicad without even jumping to other tools. And we also have a great presentation tool within Archicad, which no other BIM tool today offers, which is basically BIM on the go. So what we do here is basically we are trying to compress the entire BIM model along with the documentation that we have created into a format called the BIMX format. And this BIMX format will work even on any browser or our Android phone or our iPhone or any of our tablet phone. For example, if you are visiting a client, you don't have to carry your entire documentations on paper, or you don't have to carry your heavy laptops to show or showcase your BIM model or your projects. You can quickly show your models, and you can show the updates on your model through the BIMX app in front of your clients, and you can also get quick updates and changes, and you can also communicate to the app. And another aspect of visualization is we also have direct live sync plugins to render. For example, many of the architects today, they use Enscape and D5 for rendering, and they prefer that render, and they are good with those renderings and walkthrough. For that, we have live sync connection from Archicad, so that, for example, if you have a architecture team and the design visualization team, they can work together on the same model. For example, if there is any change on the design, and you can quickly update those design, and those design will change into the Enscape or the D5, instead of exporting every time after you change, or after there is any design change, you don't have to export each and every time. And again, to add to what Shivani talked about OpenBIM, um, let me give you a simple explanation of what it is. In real time or in real life, in most of the projects that we are working in, we are collaborating with different disciplines of people. For example, I'm an architect and I will be working on architectural aspect of a model, and we will be consulting with a structural consultant, and we will also have a MEP consultant. So for all of us to work together, we have to uh, either work on the same product, or we will have to work it on a BIM software that supports OpenBIM. So basically, OpenBIM lets me collaborate with these consultants, even though if they use different BIM softwares, we have this format called IFC. So IFC is basically like a PDF, you can say. For example, if you are working in a Word document, or if you're working in a PPT, when you are sharing it with someone else, you will be sharing it as PDF. So that way they will not be able to edit or change what you have done, but they can use it as reference to build it on their own. So that is what we are doing here. we will be sharing my, for example, my architectural model as IFC, and then my consultant will share his model to me, and this is how we will use it as a reference to build on top of our own building model. And for the documentation part inside Archicad, just like I said, Archicad helps us focus more on the creativity part, and it takes care of the complexity part, and it also takes care of the documentation part. So as an architect, we all enjoyed designing, modeling, and stuff, and we all hate documentation, doing details and all that. And that is where Archicad comes in and understands the pain of an architect, where a single line of section cut will give us the detailed section of our model, and it will help us create all these takeouts from our model, and it helps us create different types of views just by altering the element attributes. So that is how the documentation part happens. And just because we have it as a setup within the publisher set, we don't have to redo all these changes. And we also have inbuilt AI tools now. We have a lot of AI tools coming inside Archicad, and one among those is Archicad's AI visualizer, which you cannot see in any of other BIM tools or any other tools today. You are also depending on another third party service to get your AI renderings or something like that. So in Archicad, we have this AI visualizer that works on stable diffusion engine, and this can be used as an inspiration, or you can even use it for if you're someone who does a lot of competitions. So basically, you have your conceptual model. Let's say you are starting something, you have created the massing, and from there you can use your text prompts. For example, as you see in the example here, the modern concrete residential, then the Archicad's AI visualizer will analyze your conceptual model or the massing, and it gives you AI rendered or AI generated images. So you can toggle with these prompts, and then you can create more renders based on what you are trying to visualize there. And here is a quick example of how it works. So you put the prompt here, and based on the model, it gives you different AI images generated on it. So you can also control the creativity part, where you can basically decide how creative the AI should take it over, or how strict it should follow the massing model which you have given. So this is another feature that Archicad brings in within the software itself under the same project file. So let's now quickly jump into the software. Just a second. Okay. I hope you can see my screen. And Shivani, can you confirm once?
Yes, your screen is visible.
Yeah. So now we are inside Archicad, and as we have seen it on the user interface tool, on the left you have your design tools like walls, slabs, columns, beams, doors, windows, objects, and all these things. And then your viewpoint tools. So viewpoint tools basically gives you the elevation sections and your worksheet detail and your camera angle and all these view related settings here. And then the last part is the documentation part. So documentation part basically has all the 2D attributes of the drawing. For example, the dimensions, level dimensions, texting, labeling, grids, lines, polylines, anything that you have to do with adding 2D elements to your drawing. So this is where you will find them. So just because we have all of them inside Archicad itself, you can always start with your line drawing, just like how we would start it in Archicad and then we would take it to other softwares. I can always start by making lines, and then I can quickly create or convert those lines into walls. And when I say wall, I want you to understand something here. Just like how we make two lines in AutoCAD and then we create a rectangle and then we push it and then we call it wall. The problem is not that it will help us create a BIM model, or let's exactly say that it is a wall. For example, if you are pushing that SketchUp model from one software to the other, it would be difficult for someone to understand what that particular element is. So that is where the information is getting lost, and that is where BIM information modeling comes in. So to give you an example, simply I have selected or double clicked on the wall here. It gives me all the settings basically. So for a wall, here is where I can give the dimensions or the thickness, sorry. And then I can select the geometry method of my wall. And then basically the complexity of my wall. So basically I'll start with a simple basic wall. And later, if I want to add more details to my walls, like if I want to say my wall will have uh, uh, a plaster on both the side and there will be one layer of paint on one side, I can create those composites as well inside Archicad, and later part also I can apply that to my wall. And on the left is the simple geometry of my wall. So inside, now what I can decide is I can either give my length of my wall, which is the wall height, or I can simply say my wall will start from the ground floor and it will end at the first floor or second floor. Now what happens, even if I change the height of my building at any point of the design, my wall will automatically connect to the ground floor. For example, it considers ground floor as its base point and it will consider roof as its top link. So it automatically comes and touches to the roof. I don't have to manually adjust it. For example, if you want more connection, you can always click on not linked, and then that will give you the access to exactly specify the height of your wall. So it starts from there, and then you can also go deep into how you want your wall to be visible in the floor plan. So you have the floor plan and section settings here. So now you decide how your wall should look on the floor plan and on the sections and elevations. So you can choose the type of line, you can choose the pen color, and you can choose the outline color, and you can also choose if the wall is cut somewhere how it should look, or if it is a plan how it should look, and all that. And then comes the model part. On the 3D model, how my wall should look. For now, you can see for the model, the outer layer, the inner layer, and the top part, everything is applied to glossy white. So this is how my wall will look in 3D with painted white on all the ends. So that is how, while creating a single wall, I decide what I want. And all these things can also be changed at any part of the design time, and it always gets updated. And then I also have my structural parameters here. I can decide if this wall will be a load bearing element. So I can choose load bearing element or not non load bearing element, or if I can even specify undefined until the decision is made. So for example, if I have decided that this is a load bearing element, later in the stage I can quickly do some filter and then take out only walls that has load bearing elements, and then Archicad will only display all the walls that is load bearing. So this way I can quickly share my drawings to my consultant with only the load bearing walls and load bearing elements. And then comes the classification part. So that is where